Papers, Please was an incredibly unique indie title that was unlike anything I'd ever played before. I mean, how can you even define it? Strategy, RPG, immigration agent simulator? Whatever you wanted to call it. It was a fresh, new, one-of-a-kind game that really caught my attention. The art style, the sound design, dark humor, everything about it made a game that was essentially filing paperwork rewarding and fun. I thought for sure that Papers, Please was a one-of-a-kind unique experience. It was lightning in a bottle, it couldn't be replicated. But recently, a new challenger emerged. Developed by game studio Panic Barn, Not Tonight is a management game with RPG elements very much in the vein of Papers, Please. The core game mechanic, checking paperwork as quickly as possible, at first glance seems to be nearly identical to Papers, Please, obviously drawing heavy inspiration from the previous title. Now, let me start this review by saying I will be making a lot of comparisons to Papers, Please, as it seems that Not Tonight borrowed many ideas from it. Now, let me also say I have no problem with this. I love Papers, Please, but I don't see any issue with another studio trying to flesh out the game genre that obviously people want because of the success of Papers, Please. In Not Tonight, you play as a European bouncer in post-Brexit Britain, where the Albion Party has gained popular support and is suppressing the European immigrants living there, segregating the Euro minorities into housing projects, and requiring them to meet unrealistic monetary goals to not be deported. In this dystopian future, you have been assigned the job of a bouncer. You earn money by accepting gigs. This is where the main game mechanic takes place. Much like Papers, Please, you need to identify information quickly to get through as many clients as possible in a set amount of time. Checking photos, tickets, expiration dates, and counterfeits, refusing entry to people with invalid credentials. This is what you came here for. This is the same mechanic you know and love from Papers, Please. And this is where the game really shines. To Panic Barn's credit, they have added some new mechanics that I really enjoy. Rather than being paid per entrant as in Papers, Please, there's a quota system, meaning a certain deadline is required to pass the gig, and bonus stretch goals are also available if you're able to get more than required. Papers, Please was very methodical. While you might get the occasional bribe here and there, the penalty for doing so was very harsh, and it always seems like you were rewarded for doing everything by the book. In Not Tonight, mistakes are not nearly as punishing as they are in Papers, Please. Typically, you'll get about 4 chances to make mistakes before you receive consequences. This allows you to have a lot of wiggle room in order to game the system. Accepting bribes is a good way to make extra cash. When you point out the issue with the customer's ID, they have a chance of slipping you between 30 and 45 euros in exchange for letting them pass. He's not born before that age. He's underage. He's expired. 40 bucks. See you later. Alright. But when you do let a person bribe you, that customer does not count towards the total quota of the night. I really like this mechanic. It adds a great risk-reward system into the game, balancing how many mistakes you think you'll make and how many customers you still need with the amount of bribes you take is a lot of fun. It adds to the chaos of trying to meet the night's quota. You can't sit there and think too long about if you're going to take or reject the bribe, and you need to quickly get through the rest of the customers. Another mechanic they added into the game is the ability to sell drugs. Oh, he is. Fuck yeah, dude. Again, this is a balancing act. It takes a little bit of extra time to do the drug deal, so you need to be fast enough to make the exchange while also meeting the quota of the night's gig. In the more advanced gigs, you'll need to deal with multiple lines of people. People walking in off the street, people on the list, and VIPs. You need to manage each line, giving each attention before the customers get frustrated. VIPs only need to say a passphrase to get in, so they're very quick to process. However, they will only wait a short period of time before getting frustrated, and you can't just stop once you've taken the next person in line's ID. This caused me, on multiple occasions, to overlook issues with the people in other lines, so that I could get to the VIP before they got frustrated and left, earning me a mistake. Also, the guest list is probably the most frustrating document to check in the game. The only reason being, it's not in alphabetical order. So every time a person shows their ID, you need to scan the list, often being 2 pages for the name of the person. You could argue that this adds to the hectic nature of the game. Well, I don't know. The drugs and bribes are fun, because you have control over them, whereas the list and VIP mechanics seem arbitrary, causing you more frustration than they're worth, and they don't provide as much satisfaction because it's more about luck than your own quick thinking. The list makes me wish for the rulebook and Papers, Please. Everything's so neat and in its place with a nice table of contents where all the rules are organized and in their place. But maybe that's just part of the theme. A nightlife bouncer is going to be much more disorganized than an immigration official after all. But these are minor gripes. Now, something I do actually have a problem with is the art style. The game itself looks beautiful. The animations are amazing. I love it when a customer enters the venue and the music surges as the door opens. It's absolutely beautiful to look at. So how can the art style be good and bad at the same time? The issue is that customers are pixel art, and to me, not instantly recognizable. In Papers, Please, the game's art style makes characters easily recognizable because of the semi-realistic graphics. By semi-realistic, I mean that the characters actually have eyes, a nose, and a mouth. At least most of them have the facial features you would expect on a human being. This is very important in a game where you need to check IDs. The human brain is very good at detecting faces. That's why so many people are able to find Jesus in their grilled cheese sandwiches. But in Not Tonight, everybody's face is a pixelated void, and the picture on their ID needs to match their face 100%, including hairstyle, hair accessories, and hats. This makes quickly scanning the face of the customer and comparing it to the ID very difficult, taking a bit longer than I think it should to compare the two, making sure that every little pixel is in place. Also, at one point in the game where the art style is detrimental is the dress codes. I cannot tell the difference between a one-piece swimsuit and a dress in pixel art, nor can I tell the difference between shorts and swim trunks. God, how is that person wearing band clothing? What the hell was she even wearing? God damn. Making stupid mistakes that don't feel like they're your fault is obviously very frustrating, because that means you're not able to make as many bribes. But all in all, even with the few complaints I had, I found the core game mechanic engaging and fun to play. Where Papers, Please is slow and deliberate with many rules and regulations, sometimes getting out rarely used tools like x-ray machines. Not Tonight focus more on the aspects of getting people quickly through a queue with random elements, like VIPs, selling drugs, to make everything a bit more hectic and fast-paced, forcing you to be on edge in order to make your quotas, fitting the theme of a bouncer very well. Finishing gigs rewards you with cash as well as getting you a step closer to becoming head bouncer. Head bouncer makes more money, but more importantly, it lets you access the different items, which are used in the RPG elements of the game. The story in Not Tonight feels quite linear. The Steam page suggests your choices matter, but I really don't think so. There are a few failure state endings where you didn't earn enough money, or you have too low of a citizen rating because you were selling too many drugs and failing gigs. But for the most part, the only real choice you make is you can either side with the rebellion or you can do nothing. It's not like you can side with the status quo, it's more like you can just do nothing. There's no story progression or anything where you side with your parole officer. Maybe I was playing wrong, but as far as I'm aware, you can't do anything with the quest items besides help the rebellion. So even if you did want to RP as someone who's keeping their head down and informing on the rebellion, you can't really do that. You can just sit there and do nothing. Also, the RPG elements are not integrated into the gameplay as well as they are in Papers, Please. In Papers, Please, RPG elements are seamlessly integrated into the gameplay so that the story unfolded while you were playing the game, and it felt really immersive. It never felt like the gameplay stopped so that the story could happen. This is my main issue with Not Tonight. Story elements feel obnoxious. During a gig, sometimes there are character moments where someone will come up and talk to you and you're not allowed to take any more customers until you deal with the person. I remember while playing, the owner of the bar, Dave, suggested that I watch out for a certain individual. I scanned the names, checking to see if anyone matched his, expecting him to be in the queue with everyone else, hidden, and the game would reward you if you were paying attention. But no, he just comes straight up and says, "Hey." In Papers, Please, a lot of the story characters were just immigrants that you could choose to engage with or not if you were paying enough attention. You might even miss someone that you had been warned about, completely missing an element of the story. Not Tonight's clunky way of conveying the story could be acceptable if it was particularly interesting, but unfortunately this is not the case. Not Tonight does not do a good job of making you feel like you're an oppressed minority. I always had plenty of cash, and the stakes never really felt real. I never felt like I was on the cusp of losing everything. In Papers, Please, I constantly felt like I was always 2 steps behind, grasping for every dollar as the stakes got higher. All in all, I had a lot of fun with Not Tonight. I definitely had an appetite for more Papers, Please. And Not Tonight does a good job with the core game mechanic, expanding on them with new features and challenges, giving you a more hectic and fast-paced gameplay experience than Papers, Please ever did. The story and RPG elements are definitely the limiting factor. I wonder if they would have made an arcade-style management game like Diner Dash, or just a different story in general. It's like they tried so hard to emulate Papers, Please, they didn't even consider not setting the game in an authoritarian regime. But at the end of the day, that's really not what's important. Panic Barn did a good job keeping the elements that work and implementing new ones that improves on the formula. I would definitely recommend this game for anyone who's played through Papers, Please and is looking for more. For those who haven't, go get yourself Papers, Please. And when you're tired of running the endless mode, come back and play this.